Henry Burris TV is brought to you by Hockey Central Sports Memorabilia, Sylvan Lake, and Supreme Menswear, simply the best. Take us inside a huddle during game time. What goes on? I'm sure with every team's different, every huddle's different. You're the guy calling the shots, but I'm sure there's always some guy that's chirping.
Oh, you always have that. There's always one guy in every huddle in all of football that's always the chirper.
That's always open.
And he's always open.
Yeah.
He's always open. But you know what? There's always that respect, though. When the quarterback enters the huddle, it's time to hush up because in the CFL, we only have 20 seconds, whereas in the NFL, it's 40 seconds, the time they spot the ball, they get it running. You have a lot more time. So there's probably a lot more jibber-jabbering going on in the NFL. But the thing is, as soon as that quarterback steps in the huddle, everybody's silent because if guys aren't silent, it disrupts all communication, slows down the whole process because we want to be in and out of the huddle as fast as possible, at least be able to get to the line of scrimmage before 10 seconds remaining, just so therefore, if there are any necessary audibles or anything that's needed, we can make the necessary checks and still be able to get the snap off before we get a time count. But there's all types of talking going on beforehand, but as soon as we step in, I know as far as in our huddle, there's silence, and as soon as the play's called, you hear communication going on as far as getting all the calls out before we make the line of scrimmage, and it's time to play ball.
If there's one guy that isn't quiet, would it be Nick?
Yeah, Nick's he's one of the usual suspects. I can promise you that. He's definitely one of the usual suspects. John Cornish is also another guy that we have to keep in check every now and then because, to me, he went to Kansas, but he talks like he has a Harvard degree sometimes, or at least he thinks he does. But he's a very intelligent guy. But, when a guy's been around as long as those two have and they know so much about the game, they almost have a psyche where they know what's going to happen before it actually does. And it's good to have those type of guys on your team, but when we're in the huddle trying to communicate, that's when I step in. All right, guys, let's hush it up. Let's get the play call out, get that done. Then you can do all the talking you want, but let's get focused for the next play.
If there were any rules in the CFL that you would like to change, what would they be? I know when you look at the south of the border in the NFL, they catch a pass, they have to hurry to get back or that clock keeps ticking. Here, they pause.
Right.
And then they set it down. It can drive a guy nuts because you've played this game where you know exactly, but yet it seems that clock is giving them an advantage.
Well, there's two things I've always had a problem with up here. Number one being the fact that when they say, okay, we'll allow your guys to get back in the huddle before we start the time clock, and there's only 20 seconds up here, so each second is paramount. I mean, it means that much to us as far as to be able to keep the flow going smoothly. However, for us, even if our guys are hustling back, we've had scenarios, and I'm not going to blame the officials for this, but I just asked them to at least give us some type of grief here, or at least let's balance this thing out here a little bit for both teams. But when some of our guys are still trying to get back in the huddle, they'll start the play clock.
Right.
And for us, we don't have a lot of time, and so it's always guaranteed that at least give our guys a chance to get back in the huddle. Just because you want to speed up the game, you still have to give the offense a chance to make all the corrections, get the guys in the huddle, make their substitutions, and therefore be able to ride smoothly. Also, another thing is we have to get to a point for a quarterback to where when we talk about intentional grounding and what a quarterback can do with the ball, whether he's in the pocket or outside the pocket, throw the ball past the line of scrimmage, and therefore it's not a grounding penalty. Right. Let's clearly define what the call is, because I've had scenarios where, it might not have went past the line of scrimmage, but a receiver was in the area. They still threw the flag and said it was intentional grounding because it did not go beyond the line of scrimmage. Well, for receivers in the area and you're still trying to get on the ball, that's the game of football. I mean, sometimes you get hit when you're throwing the ball, and I've had that happen where I'm throwing the ball and I get hit as I'm releasing it and the ball goes into the ground. Well, if I wouldn't have got hit, the ball would have went towards a receiver, which the ball was still clearly going in that direction. But since it didn't make it past the line of scrimmage, they ruled it that, it's intentional grounding. It didn't go beyond the line of scrimmage. Well, however, as a quarterback, our job is to get the ball to the receiver, which could also be in the area as well.
The reason I asked about that, the time interpretation, is because if you had been playing NFL rules, when you guys lost that heartbreaker against BC, they never got that kick in.
Yeah, no, they never would have.
There's no way they would have.
Yeah, the clock, I mean, of course, within 3 minutes, the clock stops here, which really prolongs the game. And in many ways, that can be exciting because it gives the team that's down a chance to come back. But also for the team that's up, it can suck in many ways too, because you're ready to get the game over with and you're hoping, hey, keep the clock running. You know, is the timekeeper from BC, from Vancouver, wherever he's from the hometown? Does he really? Is that his favorite team, and he hates us? But there's so many different scenarios that can come up with a situation like that, and you just hope as well as they manage it properly, and both teams are treated fairly. That's all you can ask for.
I wanted to ask you too. You know, when you look at all the different rules, the missed field goal. I mean, I always had a tough time with it, but at the same time, you know, I don't like that single point, but you should be able to run it out. But
yeah,
you know, that to me, and being able to end a game on a single, you know, they've changed that, haven't they?
Well, it's still the same.
Yeah.
Where
Okay.
you know, you have to return out of the end zone. Of course, my first year up here, when I saw that scenario occur in a game where we were down by 1 point to BC in BC place, and we kicked the field goal, we missed it. To me, that was probably one of the most exciting plays I've ever seen.
Yep.
That guy catching the ball and rushing to that goal line, and here all of our guys are sprinting the heck down there trying to stop him from getting out of the end zone. And he made an illustrious dive and eluded one of our guys and got out of the end zone barely. And BC won the game because of their hustle and him being able to get the ball in the end zone. However, in the end, if you miss a field goal, should you be rewarded? No, but it's the rule. It makes the CFL game exciting like it's always been. So if it's in there, I'm all for it. But, of course, I don't think you should reward somebody for not having success.